subject to the call of the chair. But we do have some video, we understand, from Scott Peters, who's a congressman from California, who's put up a Periscope feed. Looks like it's back up. This is live here on C-SPAN.
Northern Iraq. There's an area in northern Syria called the Manbij Gap. Many of us on the Defense Committee and Armed Services are familiar. This is the gap which terrorists, after they get trained, they go north into Turkey, and then they go west into Europe, and they're thinking that some of the European terrorists have come from this region that have already acted. So we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars to close the Manbij Gap, but we'll allow a major gap and a major loophole here in the United States to continue to exist. This is very simple, and I think every one of us needs to talk about it in this way. Republicans are soft on terrorism. Period, dot, end of story. If you're not for this, you are weak on terrorism and you are weak on protecting the American people. That's our message. And one last thing I want to say. I believe that this is illuminating a bigger problem here in Congress and in Washington. The American people are wondering what's going on in Washington, why all the gridlock? What you all are doing here today is communicating to the American people why. It is the Republican-led Congress that is preventing us from doing something that 90% of the American people want. 90% of gun owners want. It's the Republicans who won't allow this to happen. And you know what else? It's the Republicans that didn't bring up a vote on a jobs bill. It's the Republicans that won't allow us to reduce the cost of college tuition. It's the Republicans who are trying to repeal health care for everybody. And it's the Republicans who are endorsing the biggest goofball for President of the United States. You want to know what the problem is in Washington? It's the Republican Party, and we're trying to stop it.
We are proud to say that we're joined by Senator Rob Wyden, and of course one of our own from the House of Representatives, Jimmy Scavanaugh from Michigan. Our next speaker is Lois Frankel, followed by Don Payne, followed by Alan Grayson. Waiting patiently. Lois is here. Well then, there's Alan. So when it's done.
I've been showing you live video, a Periscope video from Scott Peters, Congressman, Democratic Congressman from California, of video from the floor of the House as that sit-in continues by Democrats. Got underway at 11:30 Eastern this morning. The issue being gun legislation that Democrats would like to be considered by the House. The House was set to come in at noon today and take up the financial services bill for 2017. That's all been put off until TFN, as they say, I guess. We will keep you posted on when and if the House will come in this afternoon. They are in recess, what they call subject to the call of the chair, and we'll take this opportunity to open up our phone lines again and get your thoughts on what you're seeing, what you're hearing. 202-748-8921 for Democrats, 202 for Republicans rather, 202-748-8920 for Democrats, and for independents and all others, 202-748-8922. And we welcome your comments on Twitter. You can send us a tweet at C-SPAN. Here's one from Kelly, who tweets, "Stop yelling at C-SPAN, yell at Congress." She may be referring to the cameras that are controlled by the House leadership. Political brew, U.S. legislators that lie should be punished or removed from office. The U.S. is in the bottom half of nations in murders per capita. We have calls waiting, and Goodwin is in Andover, New York on our Democrats line.
I would like to thank C-SPAN for keeping an open line, and I don't know the name of the person that's doing it, but I do think he's doing a very good job. This is about the First Amendment, not only the Second Amendment. The First Amendment is free speech, and I have learned a lot just listening this morning to these learned congressmen who have been providing a lot of information as to why we have to have laws to decrease the health crisis of killing so many people. That is just, it's absolutely scandalous. And I noticed that my Republican congressman simply will not take any telephone calls, and Paul Ryan will not take any telephone calls. So I believe in general, those people that want to defend these drugs, defend these gun tactics,
Right.
I haven't got a foot to stand on. There is no reason why we should be number top in the world.
Goodwin, we're going to let you go there. We have the Periscope video feed back up. This, again, is being provided by Scott Peters of California. It looks like Congressman...
What has always served me well.
Congressman Payne, perhaps, on the floor. Live coverage here on C-SPAN.
Come into my office with their family, with their children. I put my children in that position, and what would I do? And it served me well. Why does it have to be something personally happen to my colleagues on the other side for them to ever understand anything? My colleagues here, we take the time to think about it. We take the time to deliberate. We put ourselves in those people, in our constituents' position. But until it's personal on that side of the aisle, it doesn't matter. I'm sick and tired of it. What do I tell my son that says, you know, Dad, why do you even go to Washington? It doesn't seem like you can get anything done. Why do I have people in my district that the only safe place for them to sleep is in their bathtub? Because of the gun violence, because of what they suffer from every single day. In my district, the 10th district of the state of New Jersey, 1/3 of the murders happen in my congressional district for the whole state of New Jersey. 1/3. And as Senator Booker and I were on a municipal level of government, I talked about how my pager used to go off in the middle of the night. And the only thing it was the police informing us that someone else was shot. So my pager would go off, my BlackBerry would go off, and it would buzz and hum, and I would just get the pit in my stomach because I know that meant there was another shooting in my community. This has to stop. This has to stop. And the kowtow to the NRA, NRA stands for, and always has, since I've been here in the House of Representatives, no Republican action.
Our next speaker is Alan Grayson. We want to recognize the great senator from the state of Virginia, Kane.
The shooting took place 8 blocks from my district a week ago last Sunday. Here are the list of the victims. Stanley Almodovar, 23 years old. Amanda Alvear, 25 years old. Arsca Aracena Montero, 26 years old. Rodolfo Ayala, 33 years old. Antonio Devon Brown, 29 years old. Daryl Roman Bird, 29 years old. Angel Candelario Padro, 28 years old. Juan Chavez Martinez, just 25 years old. Luis Daniel Conde, 39 years old. Corey Connell, 21 years old. Tevin Eugene Crosby, 25 years old. Bianca Deidre Drayton, 32 years old. Simone Andrian Carrillo Fernandez, 31 years old. Leroy Valentin Fernandez, 25 years old. Mercedes Marisol Flores, 26 years old. Peter Gonzalez Cruz, just 22 years old. Juan Ramon Guerrero, 22 years old. Paul Terrell Hendry, 41 years old. Frank Hernandez, 27 years old. Miguel Angel Honorado, 30 years old. Javier Jorge Reyes, 40 years old. Jason Benjamin Jehoshaphat, 19 years old. Eddie Justice, 30 years old. Anthony Luis Larna Dosla, 25 years old. Christopher Leonin, 32 years old. Alejandro Martinez, 21 years old. Brenda Lee Marquez McCool, 49 years old. Gilberto Ramon Silva Menendez, 25 years old. Kimberly Morris, 37 years old. Akira Monet Marie, just 18 years old. Luis Omar Ocasio Capo, 20 years old. Eric Ivan Ortiz Rivera, 36 years old. Joel Ramon Panigua, 32 years old. Juan Carlos Mendez Perez, 35 years old. Enrique Rios, 25 years old. John Nieves Rodriguez, 27 years old. Christopher Joseph Senfeliz, 24 years old. Javier Emmanuel Serrano Rosado Sotomayor, 34 years old. Il Marie Rodriguez Sullivan, 24 years old. Shane Evan Tomlinson, 33 years old. Martin Torres, 33 years old. Jonathan Antonio Camoy Vega, 24 years old. Frankie Jimmy De Jesus Velasquez, 50 years old. Juan Rivera Velasquez, 37 years old. Luis Vielma, 22 years old. Luis Wilson Leon, 37 years old. Gerald Wright, 31 years old. In the time that I took to read this list, that's pretty much the time it took to kill them. If you look at a video taken by one of the dead during the attack itself, you can count 17 gunshots in 5 seconds, and the shooter stopped in the middle. It is far too easy to kill too many people too quickly in this country today. And we have to do something about that. Otherwise, these people died for no reason. But we can give their lives meaning by making sure that it can't happen again. It's for we the living, as Lincoln said in the Gettysburg Address. It's for we, us the living, to make sure that we solve this problem. I had some hard lessons this week in what it means to be a congressman in the midst of a tragedy. First, just a couple of hours after the shooting was over, I got a call saying that the victims who survived were unconscious. They weren't allowed to give consent, and the hospital is not permitting their loved ones to provide them any sort of aid under HIPAA rules. Well, we solved that problem. The next day, we got calls from 2 parents living in 2 other countries who pled with us to try to get them visas because they wanted to go to the funerals of their children. And then the day after that, we dealt with the problem of what to do with the remains being transported out of the country of the dead. All those were easy problems. Now comes the hard problem. The problem of how to make sure this doesn't happen again. We have to make sure that we do our best so that people who have an evil intent can't get a weapon of mass destruction in their hands. We may not always know what's in people's heads, We may not always know what's in people's hearts, but for sure we can see what's in their hands, and we can control what's in their hands. We desperately need in this country to make sure that there is a background check of everyone who wants to buy a weapon. Are you with me?
Yes.
We desperately need to make sure that those who are identified already by law enforcement as the ones who are most likely to do harm to other citizens, we have to make sure that they can't get the means to do so. Are you with me?
Yes.
These are simple, obvious measures that the American people all support. Almost to a man and a woman, leaving aside the isolated leaders of the NRA and their tools in Congress, who, by the way, belong to the other party, not ours. I'm telling you this, we can't let this go.
I can't.
We can't put this behind us. Not this time. Never again.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'd like to recognize two other United States senators who have come to sit with us here in protest. Bob Casey from Pennsylvania. And the person Donald Trump loves most to be chatting it up with, Elizabeth Warren. Jared Huffman.
Oh, Jared.
Jared Huffman will be followed by Matt Cartwright. Matt will be followed by Michelle Lujan Grisham.
Colleagues, I am so proud to be here with every one of you as we all do everything within our power to just bend that arc of history a little bit toward justice and bring some democracy back to the people's house. And there's an irony here. The Republican leadership has cut the mics, they've cut the cameras, but far more people are listening to us and watching us on pirated cell phone pictures and YouTube videos than ever would have tuned into C-SPAN.
That's right.
Yeah.
Something is happening here.
On Periscope.
Have you noticed that the gallery is beginning to fill up with people? Yes. Even though our Republican colleagues tried to block visitors from being in that very gallery. So the fact is, they can cut off the mics, they can cut off the cameras, they will not silence our voice, because today, at this moment, on this issue, our voice is the voice of the American people, and it will not be silenced. You know, they say that great speeches aren't given on the House floor anymore. And I've been here 4 years, and I can't think of a lot of great speeches that I've heard until today. In a House where some of the icons of American history served and rose and gave great speeches, John Quincy Adams, Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, John Dingell, John Lewis. Today, I heard amazing speeches from so many of my colleagues, and I know we're going to hear more. Unscripted, completely authentic. Something is happening here, and I'm proud to be a part of it. So, Speaker Ryan, come out of your office. Come and talk to us. Listen to the voice of the American people. Get out of that right-wing echo chamber of special interests and unhinged ideologues, and listen to the voice of the American people. If we don't have a bill, if we don't have a vote, we will not have a break.
My name is Matthew Cartwright. I represent northeastern Pennsylvania, and I am so honored to be among this courageous band of brothers and sisters who have come together in violation violation of all the known House rules, against all the regulations, in derogation of the normal order of things around here, and I'm honored to be among you, and I have some questions. It is a repetitive series of questions. I apologize in advance, but my question is this. We talk about going on a break. Have the families and the loved ones of the innocent victims of Columbine had a break from their grief? No. How about the families and loved ones of the innocent victims of Aurora? No. Have they had a break from their pain? No. The families and the loved ones of the innocent victims of Newtown, Connecticut, have their families have a break from their sorrow? No. The families and the loved ones of the innocent victims of the shooting in Charleston, South Carolina, have those families and loved ones had a break from their suffering? No. The families and loved ones of the victims, the innocent victims in Orlando, Florida, have these families and loved ones had a break from their horror that we just saw? No. Are you tired of the repetitive nature of my question? Yes. Are you tired of the repetition of these horrors in our country? Yes. I say, no bill, no break. 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 No bill, no break.
A mighty voice in the House of Representatives from the most statuesque person here in this chamber.
Come on, Michelle.
All right, we're just going to take advantage of that momentum. I'm standing tall today. This is what I thought it was going to be like. I thought every single day I would be motivated and moved by my colleagues and members who would speak from their heart, who would talk about what's important, that they would bring home both the positive and the not so positive examples from their districts, and then do something about it. And when I go home, but for today, I talk about how that doesn't happen, that it's not an organic process, that we don't debate, that we don't take action on the very floor. I fought incredibly hard to be elected, to be part of this group, to make a difference for the people that I care about in my district and in my state and in my country. And like all of you here today, it's personal to me. Just last October, a 4-year-old, Lily Garcia, was shot in her car seat on a highway by gun violence that makes absolutely no sense and has no place in our communities. In the last 11 years, 2,000 people who were suspects on the FBI terrorist list have purchased guns. 2,000. I don't want to have to say any more to the parents of Lily Garcia or to the men and women who fought hard, the police officers, to get the perpetrators, who soon after, Officer Daniel Webster was gunned down by an individual who should not have a felon, who should not have access to a firearm. So when we talk about our fundamental rights, we have a fundamental right to be safe in our own communities. Tell my community that I voted on a bill to demand that my and your fundamental right to be safe in our homes and our communities gets done. No vote, no break. No vote, no break.
No vote, no break.
Listen, I want everybody to pay attention to the fact that, look, these security people here are doing their job. They're doing a good job, too. They've been asked by the speaker to shut off all the cameras, to shut you off from filming. All I'm saying to you is, don't take it out on the very people that are just simply doing their jobs.
Correct.
And understand that that's what they're doing, their job. But by all means, keep filming.
Hey, John. John Lewis would say that's good trouble.
John?
That's good trouble. Scott?
There's an app called Periscope, and I understand if so many people watch it, that it crashes. And so that if other people had it and wanted to download it, maybe they would like to try it out too, and would generate a little bit more capacity for the effort.
There's an app called Periscope. That's, of course, you're talking to Mr.
I said that.
An app called Periscope that if people were to turn on, download it, that Scott recommends that that's what you're doing for some technological reason beyond my capability of explaining.
And by the way, we also did a motion to suspend the rules, which was unanimously adopted, so we could film.
I made the motion.
Yep, Mr. Butter.
All right, Lois Frankel, followed by Hank Morgan, followed by Bobby Rush, and then the next four after that will be Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Peter DeFazio, John Sarbanes, and Steve Israel.
Donald Payne. Did you get hurt?
That's what was filming where I was going.
That's what, did you get,
Michelle.
Well, you saw the Periscope feed from the House. That is being provided, we understand, by Congressman Scott Peters' office from California, Democrat from California, as the sit-in on the House floor approaches the 3.5-hour mark. Started about 11:30 this morning. Democrats seeking to bring gun legislation back to the House floor. I'm going to take you back now live via Periscope for more comments.
Listen, hey, can I say something before you start? Listen, everybody who wants to speak is going to get to speak.
Well, it's the joy of technology, really. It's frozen up a little bit. We'll go back to it live if we can. We can also go to your calls live. And Mike's been waiting there in Bartlett, Illinois, independent line. Go ahead with your comments, Mike.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the fact that I think one of the biggest watch TV things, I think almost all Americans would agree that we don't want terrorists to have handguns. The problem is that the bills that have been introduced quite often don't bother to have any adjudication involved in it. And the Fifth Amendment says that you can't take away someone's rights without giving them an opportunity. I think what they need to do is to draft a bill that has a period of time more realistic than 72 hours to give the Department of Justice or the TSA the opportunity to go before a federal judge and say, hey, here's the probable cause we have to keep this individual on the list.
Thanks for your input, Mike. Let's go back to our live feed via Periscope from the House floor.